They could have made us perfect from the start, Dr. Kavita noted during a global symposium. Instead, they let us struggle, learn, and grow on our own. They trusted that we would eventually become something perhaps better than they had been. 3 years after the battle against the Void Tide, humanity launched its first wave of exploration beyond the boundaries of known space. The vessels they sent weren't world ships. Those remained committed to the defense of all civilized worlds, but smaller craft built with the knowledge gained from their ancestors. Each ship carried representatives from multiple Earth nations and often included members of allied species. They went not as conquerors or colonizers, but as explorers and diplomats, seeking to understand the universe more fully. On the 5th anniversary of the battle, now celebrated across the Concord as Unity Day, Elena stood before the combined council of Earth and alien representatives. The chamber was hushed as she delivered what would become known as the Guardian Address. 5 years ago, we learned that we were not what we thought we were, she began. We discovered that humanity's history stretched back much further than we knew, that we carried within us the legacy of an advanced civilization that chose to hide its power when that power threatened to destroy everything. Our ancestors made a profound choice. Rather than continue as they were, powerful but ultimately unable to defeat the darkness, they chose to remake themselves, to start again, trusting that their descendants would eventually rediscover their inheritance and perhaps use it more wisely. We stand now at a crossroads similar to the one they faced. We have power that could remake worlds or destroy them. We have knowledge that could elevate civilizations or dominate them. Today, I am proud to announce that we choose the path of guardianship. The knowledge contained within the world ships will be shared with all Concord species. The defensive capabilities of our fleet will protect all sentient life, not just human interests. We do this not from weakness but from strength. The strength to recognize that true power comes not from dominance, but from cooperation. Not from fear, but from trust. Our ancestors hid their power because they feared what they might become. We choose to share our power because we have seen what we can be when we stand together. The chamber erupted in approving sounds from a dozen different species. The Galactic Concord, once a loose alliance of convenience, began to transform into something more, a true community of civilizations united by shared purpose. As the years passed, humanity continued to unlock the secrets contained within their genetic memory and the world ships. They discovered that the universe was vaster and stranger than they had imagined, filled with wonders and terrors beyond comprehension. But they did not face these discoveries alone. The alliances forged in battle strengthened through peace. Species that had once viewed each other with suspicion or hostility found common ground in exploration and discovery. New threats emerge, as they always would in a universe of infinite possibility. But each time, the combined wisdom and strength of multiple civilizations proved equal to the challenge. Elena Shirova served as admiral of the Concord fleet for 20 years before retiring to become an instructor at the newly established Concord Academy. There, she taught cadets from dozens of species, sharing not just tactical knowledge, but the philosophical underpinnings of what it meant to be guardians rather than conquerors. The greatest legacy of the Builders, she told each new class, wasn't their technology or even their genetic engineering. It was their recognition that power without wisdom leads to destruction. They gave us the tools to shape stars, but more importantly, they gave us the choice of how to use them. On the day of her retirement, she stood once more on the observation deck of the Athena, now commanded by one of her former students, a human luminal hybrid who represented the growing integration of Concord species. As she looked out at the stars, she felt a profound sense of completion. Humanity had not just reclaimed its inheritance, it had transcended it. A new era had begun, not just for Earth but for all sentient life. An era where the children of the stars worked together to push back the darkness, one light at a time. And somewhere in the vast expanse of space and time, perhaps the Builders looked upon their children and found them worthy of the trust placed in them so long ago. The tide recoiled. For the first time, It showed signs of pain. It's working. Dr. Chen shouted. The feedback is disrupting its cohesion. Elena sent the pattern to the other world ships. Soon all 7 were creating similar feedback fields, forcing the tide to retreat. But the battle was far from over. The tide gathered itself, growing darker and more dense. It struck again with redoubled force. For 3 days, the battle raged across a front spanning light years. Time seemed to stretch and compress for those fighting. Minutes felt like hours, yet hours passed in moments. On the 3rd day, Dr. James Kavita, now serving as the Athena's chief geneticist, made a crucial discovery while analyzing the ship's historical records. The builders left a weapon of last resort, he explained to Elena, a way to turn the tide's hunger against itself. How does it work? If all 7 world ships align their fields in this specific pattern, he showed her a complex geometric formation. They can create a recursive loop. The tide will feed on itself until it collapses. What's the risk? Elena asked, though she already sensed the answer through her link with the ship. Kavita's face was grim. If we fail, if even one ship breaks formation, we could create a cascade effect that would destroy this entire sector. Elena shared the plan with Admiral Yamamoto and the other world ship commanders. The decision was unanimous. They would attempt it. As the world ships moved into the final formation, the Concord vessels retreated to a safe distance. This was humanity's moment to succeed or fail on their own. The 7 world ships formed a perfect heptagon, their energy fields linking in ways that defied conventional physics. At Elena's command, they activated the recursive pattern. Space itself seemed to scream. The tide writhed and twisted, caught in a trap of its own making. Its energy turned back on itself again and again, entropic forces consuming their source. In a final desperate attack, the tide sent tendrils of void energy toward each world ship, attempting to break the formation. The ship commanders refused to yield despite the pain that coursed through their neural links. With a silent flash that sensors registered across the galaxy, the void tide imploded. Where once had been a force capable of consuming worlds, there was now only empty space. The battle was over. Humanity had won. The aftermath brought a seismic shift in galactic politics. The Stellar Concord convened an emergency council to discuss humanity's unexpected triumph against an enemy that had threatened all life. You succeeded where your ancestors could only achieve stalemate, Ambassador Thelis told Elena as they prepared for the council meeting. They would be proud. We had advantages they didn't, Elena replied. We had allies. The council chamber was packed with representatives from 23 spacefaring civilizations. Many had viewed humanity's sudden emergence with suspicion or fear. Now they looked upon the human delegation with newfound respect. The void tide will return, Elena told the assembled representatives. Perhaps not for millennia, but it will return. What we've done is buy time. Time for all our civilizations to prepare together. The council voted unanimously to recognize humanity's place as inheritors of the Builder legacy. The world ships would form the core of a new defensive fleet, with crews drawn from all species. Knowledge contained within the vessels would be shared for the benefit of all sentient life. Elena, now Admiral Sharova of the Stellar Concord Defense Force, stood on the Athena's observation deck 1 month later, looking out at the stars. Ambassador Thelis joined her, their unlikely friendship having deepened through shared battle. What will humanity do now? Thelis asked. Your people hold power that other species spent eons trying to achieve. Elena smiled. Explore. Learn. Protect. The Builders left us more than weapons. They left us knowledge that could benefit all life in the galaxy. And if the tide returns, then we'll be ready, Elena said. Not just humans, but all of us together. Back on Earth, the discovery of humanity's true heritage had transformed society. Ancient rivalries seemed petty in the face of cosmic threats and possibilities. Resources once devoted to conflict were redirected toward exploration and innovation. The remaining world ships, guided by those with the strongest genetic compatibility, began to share their technological bounty. Medical advances eliminated diseases that had plagued humanity for millennia. Energy production became clean and virtually limitless. The environmental damage of centuries began to heal. Most significantly, the revelation that humans had once been capable of such advancement and had deliberately hidden that power until they were mature enough to use it wisely, sparked profound philosophical and spiritual reassessment. As Earth receded in the view screens, Alina felt a profound sense of destiny. Humanity was returning to the stars not as newcomers, but as returning guardians, taking up a mantle they had laid down millennia ago. Ambassador Thelis joined her on the observation deck. "Your people adapt quickly," the ambassador noted. "Most species would struggle for decades to master these vessels." "We were made for this," Alina replied. "Literally engineered for it." She stared at the stars ahead. "But we're not the same as our ancestors. We've evolved, changed. Perhaps that's why we'll succeed where they could only achieve stalemate." The world ship fleet accelerated toward the edge of the solar system, where a Concord battle group awaited. Together, they would journey to the front lines of a war that had been paused but never truly ended. A war for the survival of all life against the hunger of the void. As the ships prepared for their first synchronized jump, Alina felt the weight of history and future pressing upon her. Whatever happened next would define humanity's place in the cosmos for eons to come. The stars blurred as the world ships moved as one, stepping through the fabric of space itself toward humanity's cosmic destiny. Guardian of the HFY, it looked like a storm that should not exist in space, a vast churning darkness that swallowed light. Stars vanished as it passed. Planets crumbled. The very fabric of reality seemed to tear at its edges. Commander Alina Shirova stood on the Athena's observation deck, watching the tactical display as the void tide approached. After 6 months of preparation at the edge of the Cygnus Arm, the combined forces of humanity and the stellar Concord were about to face an enemy that defied conventional understanding. "It's bigger than the records described," said Ambassador Thelis, silver skin reflecting the emergency lights. "Much bigger." Alina nodded grimly. The genetic memories she'd accessed through her neural link with the Athena had shown her the last confrontation between her ancestors and the void tide. This manifestation dwarfed that encounter. "Final status report," she commanded. Admiral Kenzo Yamamoto, overall commander of Earth's world ship fleet, appeared on the main screen. "All 7 world ships are in position. The Concord fleet has formed the outer perimeter as planned." The defense strategy had emerged from humanity's genetic memories, refined through countless simulations. The 7 world ships would form the core of their defense, creating a specialized containment field that could reflect the void tide's entropic energy back upon itself. The Concord ships would target weak points and evacuate any systems in the tide's path. "Remember," Alina told her crew, "what we face isn't just a natural force. The builders learned this too late. The void tide is conscious. It chooses its path, learns, and adapts." "How do we fight something like that?" asked Dr. Maya Chen, now serving as the Athena's science officer. "By being what the builders created us to be," Alina replied. "Adaptable, unpredictable, willing to try what has never been tried before." When the battle began, it was unlike anything in human experience. The world ships created a formation that bent space itself, forcing the tide to slow its advance. Each ship projected fields of ordered energy that countered the tide's entropy. Through her neural link, Alina coordinated with the other world ship commanders, humans who, like her, had awakened to the heritage sleeping in their genes. "All world ships maintain formation," she ordered. "Remember your training." The alien vessels fought bravely alongside them. Ships that would once have been enemies now protected each other, their crews working with desperate courage against a threat that transcended species. On the second day of battle, the tide adapted. It concentrated its force on a single point in the defensive line. directly at the world ship Orion. "Orion is failing," came the desperate call. "Our fields can't hold." Elena made a decision that would have been impossible months earlier. Athena and Tianlong will move to support Orion. We'll create a triangular field. The maneuver had never been attempted. 3 world ships working in perfect harmony, their fields overlapping and reinforcing each other. It required absolute trust between the commanders, their minds linked through the ships. As the world ships moved, the tide seemed to sense the danger. It lashed out with tendrils of anti-energy that could erase matter from existence. Several Concord vessels vanished in flashes of impossible darkness. The 3 world ships locked into position. Their combined fields created a new pattern, one the tide had never encountered. Instead of merely blocking its advance, they reflected its energy back upon itself. Elena became the primary inheritor for the Athena, her mind linking directly with the ship's vast intelligence. Through this connection, she experienced fragments of her ancestors' memories, glimpses of Earth as it once was, a shining jewel of advanced civilization. They weren't just technologically advanced. She told Secretary General Adeyemi after one particularly intense session. They were trying to be better, morally, ethically. They built these ships not just to preserve technology, but to preserve the best parts of what humanity had become. Meanwhile, the alien presence in the solar system continued to grow. More Concord vessels arrived daily, some offering knowledge and alliance, others observing with what seemed like concern. Earth found itself suddenly thrust into galactic politics it barely understood. Ambassador Thelis warned Elena during a private meeting. "Not everyone in the Concord welcomes your return. Your ancestors were both respected and feared. Some believe humanity is too young, too divided to wield such power responsibly." "And what do you believe?" Elena asked. Thelis' silver skin rippled. "I believe the timing is not coincidental. The void tide stirs again at the edge of known space. Perhaps you were meant to awaken now, when your power is needed most." The warning proved prescient. Stellar Concord sensors detected anomalies in the Cygnus arm of the galaxy. Entire star systems going dark, their light and energy seemingly absorbed by something vast and hungry. The void tide had returned. Earth's political unity, fragile from the start, threatened to shatter under this new pressure. Nations that had struggled to share the world ships now argued over how to use them. Some advocated immediate military action to secure human interests in space. Others called for alliance with the stellar Concord. The situation reached crisis point when the Chinese world ship Tianlong broke formation, positioning itself to potentially intercept the Russian-European world ship Zvezda. For a terrifying moment, it seemed humanity might start an interstellar war before it even truly joined the galactic community. The catastrophe was averted by an unexpected development. When the Tianlong's weapons systems attempted to target Zvezda, both ships automatically shut down all offensive capabilities. "They can't be used against each other," Elena explained to the shocked Stellar Arc Authority. "The builders feared civil war, so they programmed the ships to prevent it. We can't fight ourselves. We can only stand together." This forced a breakthrough in negotiations. If no nation could use a world ship to threaten another, perhaps cooperation was the only path forward. A new agreement was reached. The world ships would remain under international control, with each vessel commanded by a council representing multiple nations. As Earth's internal conflicts settled into an uneasy truce, attention turned to the approaching threat. The Stellar Concord formally requested humanity's assistance against the void tide. "Your ancestors fought it before," Ambassador Thelis told the assembled human leaders. "The knowledge of how to combat it may still exist in your genetic memory, in your ships." Elena and the other inheritors delved deeper into their ship's archives, searching for anything that might help. What they found was both promising and terrifying. "The void tide isn't just a natural phenomenon," Elena reported. "It's conscious in its way. It learns and adapts. That's why our ancestors couldn't destroy it permanently, only drive it back." The world ships began to reveal their true purpose. They weren't just vessels for preservation or exploration. They were weapons designed specifically to combat the void tide. Their ability to manipulate space, to redirect energy, had been created for this very purpose. Through the neural interface, Alina learned how to activate the Athena's deeper systems. The ship transformed, sections reconfiguring as dormant technologies awakened. The other world ships followed suit, their massive forms shifting in Earth orbit like metallic leviathans stirring from sleep. 3 months after first contact, humanity made its decision. They would join the Stellar Concord as full members and commit their newfound inheritance to the defense of all sentient life. We didn't ask for this responsibility. Secretary General Adeyemi told the assembled representatives of Earth and the Concord, but neither can we turn away from it. If our ancestors built these ships to protect all life, then that is what we shall do. The 7 world ships prepared for departure, their crews a mixture of those with the strongest genetic compatibility and representatives from every major nation. Alina took her place as commander of the Athena, her mind now so deeply linked with the ship that the boundaries between them had begun to blur. The airlock cycled open, and 5 alien representatives entered, each from a different species. The diversity was stunning. One moved gracefully on 4 limbs with iridescent scales that shifted colors as it walked. Another floated slightly above the ground, its translucent body pulsing with internal light. The third appeared almost human except for its silvery skin and eyes with vertical pupils. The fourth was squat and powerfully built with armored plates along its back. The fifth remained partially hidden within an environmental suit, only its multifaceted eyes visible through a visor. "We welcome you in peace," Secretary General Adeyemi said, bowing slightly. The silver-skinned humanoid stepped forward. "I am Ambassador Thelis of the Luminal Collective. We come as representatives of the Stellar Concord, a union of 23 spacefaring civilizations." Its voice flowed with perfect clarity through the translator implants they had all received, a gift from the aliens upon their arrival. "We have observed your world for centuries," continued Thelis, "but we never expected this." The ambassador gestured toward the holographic display, showing the 7 world ships now fully emerged from their hiding places throughout the solar system. Alina stepped forward. "You knew about the ships." The floating luminous being moved closer. "Not just knew. We feared them." Its voice sounded like chimes through the translator. "I am Observer Mavis of the Photonic Assembly. The world ships are legendary vessels of terrible power." Commander Jackson tensed at the word terrible, but Secretary General Adeyemi gestured for calm. "We've only begun to understand their technology," Adeyemi said. "We didn't know others were aware of their existence." The 4-limbed reptilian made a sound like laughter. "Aware. Your ancestors' ships reshaped galaxies. They moved stars, created habitable worlds, and when necessary, destroyed threats that could consume entire systems. Over the next hours, humanity learned the truth that had been hidden from them. The galaxy was ancient, filled with civilizations that had risen and fallen over millions of years. But none had achieved what the world ship builders, their ancestors, had accomplished: the power to manipulate matter and energy on a cosmic scale. "Why did they disappear?" Alina asked. The being in the environmental suit spoke, its voice a series of clicks and whistles through the translator. "They faced something even they could not defeat, something they called the void tide, a force that consumed everything it touched." The meeting ended with an agreement to share knowledge and establish permanent diplomatic channels. As the aliens departed, Ambassador Thelis approached Alina privately. "There is something you should know," the ambassador said. "The ships don't just respond to you by coincidence. They were programmed to recognize specific genetic markers, markers that you and other humans carry." "What does that mean?" "It means the ships are not just tools you found. They are part of you." Thelis touched Alina's forehead gently. "The knowledge of how to use them is in here, waiting to be awakened." The ambassador's words proved prophetic. 2 days later, Alina experienced the first memory echo. while working in the Athena's command chamber. It wasn't like remembering something she'd forgotten. It was accessing knowledge she'd never personally learned. Her hands moved across the control interfaces with sudden confidence, activating systems that had resisted all previous efforts. When the episode passed, she found herself surrounded by astonished colleagues. "How did you do that?" asked Dr. Maya Chen. Elena stared at her hands. "I remembered." Similar incidents began occurring across all 7 world ships. Certain humans demonstrated an uncanny ability to interface with the ancient technology, as if their DNA itself carried instructions on how to operate the vessels. Dr. James Kavita, a geneticist working with the Stellar Arc Authority, confirmed what Ambassador Thelis had suggested. "There are sequences in our genome that don't follow normal evolutionary patterns," he explained during an emergency briefing. "They appear to be artificially designed, dormant until now." "Are you suggesting our ancestors engineered themselves?" General Chen asked incredulously. "That's exactly what I'm suggesting," Dr. Kavita replied. "They encoded the knowledge of world ship operation into their descendants, into us, knowing we would need it someday." With this revelation, the Stellar Arc Authority established a new protocol. Those showing genetic compatibility were assigned as inheritors, directly paired with the ship's systems through neural interfaces that amplified the dormant genetic memory. This vessel is one of 7 stellar arcs placed throughout your solar system, designed to await reactivation when needed. "Arcs? For what purpose?" Elena asked. "Survival and reclamation," the hologram answered. "When the void tide approached, your ancestors knew Earth would not survive intact. The most advanced technologies were preserved within the arcs, placed in dormancy until humanity redeveloped sufficient technological understanding to use them." The hologram showed them images of Earth from thousands of years in the past, an advanced civilization building massive ships, preparing for some cosmic catastrophe. Then the disaster struck, and civilization fell. The few humans who remained started again from nothing. "You're saying humans built this?" Commander Jackson asked incredulously. "That we had this level of technology and lost it?" "Not lost," the hologram corrected. "Hidden until needed again. Modified to survive radiation and climate change, your ancestors were designed to rebuild civilization and eventually rediscover your inheritance." As the expedition continued to explore the vessel over the following weeks, they discovered its true nature. It wasn't just a ship. It was a world ship, capable of transporting thousands of people across interstellar distances. It contained fabrication systems that could create almost anything, medical technologies beyond modern understanding, and engines that could manipulate space itself. Most shocking of all, it was only one of 7 such vessels hidden throughout the solar system. The discovery sent shockwaves through human society. Governments scrambled to claim control of what they now recognized as the most powerful technology ever discovered. The United Nations hastily formed the Stellar Arc Authority, but national interests threatened unity from the start. "These vessels represent power beyond measure," argued General Chen during a closed Security Council session. "We must maintain military control to ensure global security." "They were built for exploration and preservation, not conquest," Elena countered. "The records are clear on this." Meanwhile, the Athena systems continued to activate, section by section. When its long-range sensors came online, they detected something no human instrument ever had: signals coming from distant stars. "There are others out there," Elena reported to the Stellar Arc Authority. "Non-human intelligences, and they've noticed our ship awakening." The signals intensified as more of the arcs activated across the solar system. Some appeared to be warnings, others queries. Earth found itself suddenly thrust onto a galactic stage it hadn't known existed. 3 months after the initial discovery, as political tensions on Earth reached a breaking point, the 7 arcs synchronized their communication systems and delivered a unified message to humanity. "Children of the Builders, your inheritance awaits, but time grows short. The void tide returns." As was foretold, The arcs awaken because they are needed once more. Orbital sensors detected energy signatures approaching the solar system, vessels of clearly alien design decelerating toward Earth. Elena stood in the Athena's observation dome, watching as the first diplomatic fleet from beyond the solar system appeared in orbit. 7 ships of diverse configurations approached cautiously, transmitting on multiple frequencies. Their first message shocked everyone. "We greet the children of the world shipbuilders. Your awakening echoes across the stars." Humanity had not only discovered its forgotten past, but was about to face its cosmic future, ready or not. Awakening powers. The alien diplomatic fleet hung in Earth's orbit like jewels against the black of space. Each vessel different, some smooth and curved, others angular and crystalline, all maintaining a respectful distance as humanity grappled with their sudden arrival. Dr. Elena Sharova stood beside UN Secretary-General Adeyemi in the hastily constructed First Contact Center in Geneva. 6 weeks had passed since the alien fleet's arrival, and this would be the first face-to-face meeting with representatives from what they called the Stellar Concord. "Remember," Adeyemi whispered, "we represent all Earth now, not just one nation." Elena nodded, though she couldn't help but notice the military officers positioned strategically around the chamber. Trust was in short supply, both for the visitors and among Earth's fractious powers. The Discovery. The aurora borealis danced across the Arctic sky, its green tendrils reaching like spectral fingers into the darkness above. Dr. Elena Sharova adjusted her thermal goggles and stared at the instrument readout in disbelief. "That can't be right," she muttered, tapping the display. The ground-penetrating radar was showing something impossible, a perfect geometric structure buried 3 kilometers beneath the Svalbard ice sheet. Perfect geometry didn't occur naturally, especially not at that depth. "Director Hayes," she called into her comm unit, her breath fogging in the frigid air. "You need to see this immediately." 20 minutes later, Psych Director William Hayes stood beside her in the cramped research module, his weathered face illuminated by the blue glow of the radar screen. A career scientist with the International Arctic Research Initiative, Hayes had seen enough anomalies to remain skeptical about most discoveries. "Could be a natural formation," he said, squinting at the hexagonal structure on the display. "Maybe volcanic basalt that formed in columns." "Not at these depths," Elena replied. "And not this perfect. Look at these angles, 90 degrees exactly. And the metal content readings are off the charts. Whatever this is, it's not natural." Hayes studied the scan again, his skepticism giving way to wonder. "How did we miss this in previous surveys?" "Because it wasn't there before," Elena said quietly, "or it didn't want to be found." Within 48 hours, the small research station transformed into an international hub of activity. Teams of scientists and engineers from a dozen countries descended upon the site as specialized drilling equipment was airlifted in. Military personnel established a perimeter, keeping curious journalists at bay. As chief science officer, Elena found herself at the center of what might be the greatest discovery in human history. She worked around the clock, coordinating with engineers as they designed a way to reach the object without compromising the ice sheet. "The structure is emitting low-frequency electromagnetic pulses," she reported during a briefing 2 weeks into the operation. "They began when we started drilling, almost as if it knows we're coming." "Are we certain this is a good idea?" asked Dr. Padel from the UN Science Council. "If it's some kind of ancient weapon system, then we need to know before it activates on its own," General Chen interrupted. "Continue the operation." 30 days after the initial discovery, the drilling team finally broke through to an air pocket above the structure. Cameras lowered into the darkness captured images that stunned the world. A metallic hull stretching beyond the range of their lights, covered in symbols that resembled ancient human writing systems, yet predated all known civilizations. When they finally created an entrance large enough for exploration, Elena insisted on being part of the first team to enter. "I found it," she told Hayes when he objected. "I should be there." The exploration team consisted of 6 people. Elena, 2 military specialists, a structural engineer, a linguist, and a medical doctor. Each wore an advanced environmental suit and carried specialized equipment to document everything they encountered. What they found defied conventional understanding of human history. The entrance tunnel led to a vast chamber that seemed to defy the laws of physics. It was larger inside than the external dimensions would allow. As they moved forward, floor lights activated automatically, creating a path ahead of them. "It's responding to our presence," whispered Dr. Maya Chen, the linguist. "The technology is reacting to us specifically." They discovered that the air inside was perfectly breathable. The temperature remained at a constant, comfortable level. Most shocking of all, the controls they found seemed designed precisely for human hands. "This doesn't make sense," said Commander Jackson, one of the military specialists. "This technology is beyond anything we've ever developed, yet it seems built for human use." 4 hours into their exploration, they reached what appeared to be a central command chamber. The room was circular with control panels arranged in a ring. In the center stood a raised platform that began to glow as Elena approached. A soft blue light spread across its surface, and suddenly a holographic figure appeared, humanoid but with subtle differences in proportion and features. Genetic recognition confirmed, the figure said in a language that seemed to flow directly into their minds. "Activation protocols initiated. Welcome home, children of Earth." The implications were staggering. "It recognizes us," Elena whispered. "Who are you?" Dr. Chen asked the hologram. "I am the Athena guidance system, created to assist the inheritors when they returned," the figure replied.